Hi guys, it's Stephanie with CViConnect. I was live with you guys yesterday and apparently no one could hear anything that I was saying. So thanks to those of you who popped in and tried to join me anyway. I really appreciate it. Some of you really hung in there. It wasn't your audio or your speakers. Apparently it was mine. So today I'm hoping that having my handy dandy microphone on and I don't know what the issue was yesterday. So we're trying something different. Instead of going live from my computer and trying to share my screen that way, I just figured I would go live from my phone so that way I could show you guys both the iPad and my computer with the data, and we can, take a close look at everything that we need. So let's start answering those important questions about our data. And just like yesterday, if any of you are on right now and want to type in your comments, any questions you guys have in the chat, go ahead and put that in there below. I'll do my best to answer those. My guess is, because this is in the middle of the workday and the start of the workday for some of you guys on the west side, that most of you aren't joining me live, which is okay. But go ahead and drop your comments, your questions in the comments below anyway, and I will get back with you as soon as I can. As always, feel free to email us with any of your questions too. So you can email us at info@cviconnect.co, and we'll be happy to connect with you that way. Erin and I will check those emails and get with you as soon as possible. So one of the first questions that we had on the docket for today was, well, yesterday actually, but one of the first questions we wanted to know is, how is it captured? And so what we're doing is we're using the iPad, remember, so everything is captured by the iPad. You don't have any external devices that you have to hook on or anything like that. But while a session is running, so I have one of my students signed in here, and I could select an activity like the letter A, for example. And while I am running the session, the iPad is going to be looking for my face to see if I'm looking or if I'm looking away and when I'm looking at it on the screen. So it's also capturing if I'm touching on the screen and all of that. So while it's doing all of that for me, all of that is being captured moment by moment and then sent over to my teacher dashboard on the website, which we can check shortly. And I'll actually show you what that side looks like. But we are able to, one of the things I explained yesterday was that we used to look for just the eyes, and we told the camera to just look for the eyes of the face. Similarly to when you take your pictures and you'll see that box on your phone that pops up around the face. We were kind of doing that, but just for the eyes initially when we first launched our CViConnect platform. But we've now enhanced that to actually looking for 64 different data points along the human face. With that information, we're able to see not only where the eyes are, but because of that, we can measure the angle of the head, because we're looking at the whole outside of the perimeter of the face. We're looking for where the nose is, where the ears are, and then also the eyes and the pupils themselves and the mouth. So all of these different points along the face makes a pretty cool system so that we can see, how the measurements are within each other to see if the head is tilting in different directions. And then all of that is put into the machine to calculate where their eyes are actually looking. Because of that, we can also capture data for our kiddos who have additional ocular conditions. So I know that was another question that came up yesterday, was if they have, an extreme head tilt or they're looking nasally or anything like that, can the system capture that? Or do they have nystagmus or other eye conditions, or maybe even they have one eye that was enucleated? Not a problem. You can work with us and we will help you figure out how to set up the system so it's only looking for one eye and not both. You can tell it the right or the left so you know which eye is enucleated. You can go ahead and put that in the data and capture that accordingly. So this is really, really smart machine, and it's only getting better. What we've done is, I believe we have 54,000 recordings approximately in the system at this point in time, and we're constantly adding more. What we've done is we've used different adults who can participate in the system and look at different points on the screen, we're recording how their face is when they're looking, whether they have glasses, adding different people from a variety of backgrounds, facial structures, ethnicities, things like that will also help make sure our system is getting smarter and smarter. I often will record with eccentric viewing so that I can add those into the learning module as well. And what we found is when we are using this with our students, we are getting within 1 centimeter of accuracy in both the X and Y quadrants. So we're getting closer and closer as more and more people are using the system. The machine's only going to continue to advance. It's pretty cool technology. That is, as a TBI myself, that's my best explanation of how that works. But if you have more questions, more details that you're interested in, I would be happy to share that information with you. Go ahead and contact me and I can answer more of your questions about that too. So like I said, all of that is being sent over then from the iPad over to the server. And then what happens is you can come onto your student's web-based dashboard, which I'm on right now. I'm actually going to try to flip my camera around in a second because it'll actually be easier for me to show you. So let me go ahead and do that now. Let's see. Get to the right page where I need to be. Okay, now let's flip this screen around. See if I can do this when I'm live. I did it. Okay, so I am in my fake students profile. We're looking at their session data, and I can actually see how each page of that letter B activity was performed. So if I wanted to, I actually did this activity with my daughter because I wanted to see how a sighted peer would perform. So it's actually pretty interesting. If we want to take a look at, we'll just go to this page here for letter B. So she was sorting the letter B. And if we go to the timeline, we can see that it was quiet the whole time that she was doing the activity. That's what this red bar is. It's the low room decibel. And then we can see this is where she looked at the display. So the session started and immediately she looked at the display the entire time. The other thing that we can see is when she was dragging those letters around to make those matches, every single time she was looking while she was touching those graphics, which for our students with CVI would be great to know, are they looking and touching at the same time? More often for our students with CVI, we're seeing that break in attention and less consistency. We're seeing that look away coming back and forth. Let me see if I can get you a good example of what that timeline might look like. Let's take a look at this one. So again, I'm going to go to that session events timeline. Oh, this isn't a good example either. All right, let me see if I can find one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do that while I talk about some other stuff. I'll try to multitask for you a little bit. See if I can get another good example of that data of the going back and forth. But let's see, what was another question that you guys wanted to know about? Oh, is it secure? Obviously, super important. We want to know. You're capturing student data. You're looking at their face, and we need to make sure we're keeping the student privacy at the forefront of all of that. As technology continues to advance, that gets pretty scary, and we need to make sure that we are considering each person and how we're using that data. So let me tell you a little bit more about our system. On CViConnect, we are, sorry, multitasking is not the best friend for me. Our parent company is Life Science Technologies, and they have a product called M.Care, which is a remote patient hospital monitoring system. So everything that they do is completely HIPAA compliant. And because of all the research that they've done on that side to make sure that their patients are completely safe and secure, CViConnect gets to benefit from that. And we are also completely HIPAA compliant. So as your students are using the system and you're capturing that data, you can be assured that everything is encrypted and sent back over to the dashboard in a secure method. and keeping everyone's data totally safe. What's really nice is that at this point in time in the US, we require FERPA compliancy for our schools and HIPAA compliancy for our medical professionals. HIPAA compliancy is more secure than FERPA. And we are at this time meeting HIPAA guidelines. So we are above and beyond what the most schools are requiring for their students. And I'm really proud of that. We've had a lot of schools, different states, who need us to fill out certain forms to document our security standards and things of that. Happy to do that for you. Again, send those over to info@CViConnect.co, and I'd be happy to get those situated for you and fill those out. At this point in time, we have not had any districts that have required that from us who have not been able to join us because of security standards. We've been able to meet and exceed everyone's security requirements. And so I'm really excited to have that available to you as educators to ensure that your students' data is totally secure the entire time. I think one of the other questions we wanted to know is, what do we do with all the data, which is something that I was showing you on the system here. So let me go back and see if I can find another example for you of what you can do with all of that data and how you can interpret it. Here, actually, this is kind of fun. This is from our last Facebook Live event that we did. All right, so here you can see that the room, we first got started and we have the medium room decibel. So we've got the sound detection of how loud it is in the room. Let me scroll down here. So here's our timeline, and it's going to show us that it was loud and then got quiet. And here's this where, and then the purple here is how loud it is. So those are the three that are telling you the volume of the room. Here's when I looked at the display, looked away, came back, looked away, and you can see these back and forth movements. And what's really nice is if you want to see like how long those different sustained attentions were for, you can just hover over those bars. And I can see that this was a duration of 7 seconds, while at the end there was a duration of 13 seconds. So I know this was me, but if this was one of our students, we might be able to note that they had attention here initially, they had some look away behaviors, but near the end they were actually able to have a long sustained visual attention, which is what we'd want to see for our students. So we're getting those glances in the attention of the visual target, and we're slowly improving on that. Another thing that's really important for us to look at, so that let me back up. The first thing you see when you come onto this detailed page is exactly that, the details, the nitty-gritty, the raw data for yourself. So if this is something that you want to look at and you're looking at the total number of looks, maybe for an IEP goal or something of that nature, here's your run time for the entire session, the total time looking at the screen. So you're getting all that culmination data put together. Sorry, I'm talking with my hands and covering the camera on you guys. So this raw data is super important. Here is that teacher comment where at the end of your session, you can make any notes that you might want to about how the session was going. And so all of this is really important. The session events timeline was the one that I was just showing you guys. This new feature that came in last fall has been one of my favorites, to just see how the student is progressing throughout the session. I think that's super valuable for us. But this is the other page that I use probably the most, and this is our pictures and other associated files. So here, this is where you're going to get that heat map file of where they were looking. You can get a download of what the screen looked like, the video of what was going on the screen the entire time the student was looking. And then you also get a front camera, the forward-facing camera on the iPad, a recording of your student's face. So let's think about that for a second. This would mean that as your student is using that eccentric viewing or their head tilts and they find that good point, like a kid with nystagmus finds their null point, and they're using that eye to object contact, that you could then pause the video showing that to the teams of like, here's what their vision looks like as they're kind of moving around, and here's what their vision looks like as they're stilling and they find that good spot, right? So once they found that and they're connected, you could show your teams what to look for in a kiddo when you're not on the iPad. So that way remember, this is one tool in your toolbox. As you're doing other ways for them to use their vision, you're using other tools, you can kind of connect that through and see how their body would potentially look. What does that posture look like when they're using their vision? Some of our kiddos have that and some of them don't, but it would truly be something pretty interesting to take a look at and see if that helps you identify looking behaviors for your learners. And then those heat maps are fantastic too. So let's go ahead and download that one from this session. And you can actually see here that for the most part, with where I was holding the iPad while I was doing this demonstration, I was really looking along the bottom of the screen for the most part, and looking over for that arrow occasionally to touch that, and really not looking at the window very much. So it's pretty interesting to see where our kiddos are looking at and how they're using that data. So again, you can take it from the iPad directly to the server safely and knowing exactly how your kids are using their vision. Well, guys, until next time, I'm going to go ahead and jump off. But again, sorry about the confusion. Thank you so much for those of you who jumped on today. Hopefully we can get this recording up as soon as possible for those of you who want to watch it later. Always feel free to contact us, comment us below, or email us, info@CViConnect.co. Bye, guys.